Okay, so today let's dive into something. It might sound kind of simple, but it's surprisingly powerful. We're talking micro habits.
Yeah, those tiny little, almost like automatic things we do every single day.
Exactly, like brushing your teeth
Oh, yeah.
or grabbing your phone first thing in the morning.
Right.
Even like the way you tie your shoes. I mean, it's like we don't even think about it.
Right.
But they're actually shaping our lives in ways that we might not realize.
Yeah, what's so fascinating is that those tiny little behaviors can actually be the building blocks for much bigger
Oh,
habits.
wow.
The kind that either, help us be successful or unfortunately hold us back.
Yeah.
It all comes down to understanding how our brains work. We're wired for efficiency. And habits, even those micro ones, help us conserve precious mental energy.
So it's like our brain is saying, like, hey, let's just automate this so we don't have to think about it every single time.
Exactly. And that's why something as simple as brushing your teeth, you just do it. It's so ingrained, it's a habit. Your brain has essentially created a shortcut, a neural pathway that fires automatically without requiring much conscious effort.
That makes total sense. But I think where it gets really interesting is, like, what are the effects of these micro habits?
Okay.
Like, how can something as small as making your bed every morning, how does that actually have a noticeable impact on our lives?
Well, there's actually a study by Admiral McRaven, who's a former Navy SEAL, that found that making your bed every morning, it's correlated with increased productivity,
Really?
a greater sense of well-being, even better budgeting skills.
What?
It seems too simple, right?
It does. It's like, that tiny action,
Mm.
it sets the tone for the whole day.
Right.
It's like you've already accomplished something, even if it's small.
Yeah.
And that kind of feeling can snowball
Yes.
into other areas of your life. But what about the flip side?
Yeah.
What about the negative micro habits that, like,
Mhm.
we might not even be aware of?
Right.
The ones that are silently just sabotaging our time and energy.
Those are the sneaky ones. So think about like constantly checking your phone,
Oh, yeah.
scrolling on social media, or even that afternoon slump where you grab a sugary snack but you're not even hungry.
Yeah.
These seemingly harmless actions can add up and have a detrimental effect on our productivity, mood, and even our overall health.
Yeah, I'm totally guilty of that, especially the phone checking.
Right.
I don't know, it's like this automatic thing,
Yeah.
especially when I'm stressed out or bored.
Oh, yeah.
But you're right, those few minutes here and there, it really does start to add up.
Absolutely. And that's where the challenge lies.
Yeah.
Becoming aware of these unconscious patterns and finding ways to replace them with more positive ones.
Okay, so let's say we've identified a negative micro habit we want to change. Like what's a practical, easy strategy that our listeners can use, like today?
One technique I really like is called habit stacking.
Okay.
It's essentially like piggybacking a new desired habit onto an existing one. For example, let's say you want to incorporate mindfulness into your day, but you never have time to meditate.
Right.
You could try habit stacking by linking a minute of mindful breathing to an existing habit, like brushing your teeth.
Oh, so it's like using an existing routine as a trigger
Exactly.
to start the new behavior. I like that. It seems a lot easier than trying to come up with a whole new routine from scratch.
Exactly. You're leveraging the automaticity of that existing habit to help you build a new one. It's like your brain is saying, okay, we're already doing this, so let's just tack this other thing on while we're at it.
Yeah. But how do we begin to uncover those hidden micro habits that are kind of running the show in our lives? Like what are some steps that we can take?
It all starts with self-awareness. Take a moment to just observe your daily routine with curiosity.
Yeah.
Don't judge yourself.
Hmm.
What actions do you do without even thinking? Pay attention to those tiny little behaviors that have become so ingrained in your day.
It sounds like a detective mission to uncover these hidden patterns.
Yeah.
So let's say we've identified some of these micro habits.
Yeah.
Should we try to like tackle all the negative ones at once?
Okay, I wouldn't recommend that. Remember, these habits, even the micro ones, have been built up over time. So be patient with yourself.
Okay.
Focus on one or two key micro habits you want to change at a time to avoid feeling overwhelmed. Choose something specific and then start brainstorming ways to replace that behavior with a more positive one using strategies like habit stacking. And it's important to remember this isn't about being perfect.
Right.
It's about making progress. You're gonna mess up sometimes. You're gonna have those days where the old habits come back, and that's okay.
Yeah, we're all human, right? We all
Mhm.
have those moments.
Exactly.
It's more about like recognizing it,
Yes.
learning from it, and then just like getting back on track. It's about that long game of, just improving.
Exactly. It's a journey. Now, to dive into some actionable steps, remember that mini habit audit we talked about?
Yeah.
Take a few minutes, observe your day-to-day, write down those micro habits, and you can categorize them like positive, negative, neutral.
Okay, so our detective mission. So, like, I've got my list, and I've pinpointed mindlessly scrolling through social media.
Okay.
That's like the negative one. I'm ready to tackle what's next.
This is where habit stacking is so powerful. So instead of reaching for your phone first thing in the morning, what's a positive habit you could stack onto that routine?
Hmm. Let's see. So instead of grabbing my phone, I could spend 5 minutes reading an article
Okay.
or like a few pages of a book while I'm having my coffee.
That's a perfect example. By connecting that desired behavior to an existing routine, you're making it much easier to stick with. Plus, you're starting your day by feeding your mind something positive and engaging.
Yeah. So it's all about like those little wins, building momentum,
Yeah.
and just like creating a more positive and productive day.
Mm,
But I think it's also important to acknowledge that, technology is such a big part of our lives these days.
it is.
That it's like our phones are like
Yeah.
extensions of ourselves,
Right.
and they're like packed with all these little, micro habit triggers.
Yeah. It's true. Our devices can be both a blessing and a curse when it comes to micro habits. On the one hand, they offer incredible opportunities for learning
Mm.
and connection and even personal growth. But on the other hand, those constant notifications, that endless scroll, the allure of instant gratification, it can really hijack our attention.
Yeah, it's like a constant battle for attention.
Yeah.
So how do we like navigate that? How do we make sure our tech habits are working for us and not against us?
It really comes down to being intentional. So start by becoming aware of how you're currently using your devices.
Good.
Track your screen time. Pay attention to those apps that pull you in. And notice how you feel before and after you use them. Are they leaving you feeling energized or drained? Once you understand your digital habits, then you can set boundaries, you know, make conscious choices.
So it's about like reclaiming control,
Yes.
setting those limits, and using technology as a tool to like, enhance our lives
Exactly.
instead of letting it like rule our life.
And even small changes can make a big difference. For example, you can turn off non-essential notifications, set specific times for checking social media, or create tech-free zones in your house.
I think it's also important to remember that like not all screen time is bad. You know,
Yes.
like there are lots of ways to use technology to actually build positive micro habits.
Absolutely. Think about using language learning apps for a few minutes each day. Listen to podcasts while you commute. Even connect with loved ones over video chat.
Yeah, yeah. Those little moments, they can really add up.
They can.
Okay, so we have talked about self-awareness, the impact of technology,
Right.
strategies like habit stacking.
Yeah.
But let's like zoom out for a second.
Yeah.
How do these micro habits, both the good and the bad, like how do they connect to those larger patterns of success that we always hear about?
It all boils down to the compound effect. Just like tiny actions can lead to big changes over time, those small micro habits can build upon each other, creating a foundation for success in all areas of life.
So it's not just about like achieving one specific goal.
Right.
It's about like developing a way of being,
Yes.
a mindset through these like consistent positive actions.
Exactly. Think of it like building a muscle. Each time you perform that micro habit, it's like a tiny rep.
Okay.
It strengthens those muscles of discipline, consistency, and self-control. And those are the building blocks of success.
Okay, I get it, but life can be really chaotic sometimes,
Yeah.
and it's like sometimes just getting through the day,
Yeah.
feels like a marathon.
Yeah.
So how can we like stay motivated and make sure those positive micro habits stick?
It's important to acknowledge that this journey isn't always easy. There will be times when you're not motivated, when those old habits feel more comfortable, and you just want to quit. And that's okay.
So it's about giving ourselves grace,
Yes.
recognizing that we're not going to be perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and those slip-ups, they're all part of the process.
Exactly. Be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up over those stumbles. View them as opportunities to learn.
Yeah.
And remember, you don't have to do this alone. Share your goals with your friends, your family. Find a community of like-minded people who can offer encouragement, or even consider working with a coach or therapist.
It's like building a support system,
Yes.
for your own personal growth. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that sometimes those negative micro habits, they're actually serving a purpose,
They are.
even if it's not a healthy one.
That's a really great point. Ask yourself, what need is this habit filling? Maybe that late night snacking is a way to cope with stress, or constantly scrolling on social media is a way to numb those feelings of loneliness
Yeah.
or boredom.
So it's not just about breaking those bad habits.
Right.
It's about like understanding what's driving them
Absolutely.
and finding like healthier ways to meet those needs.
It's about being curious about those patterns.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means you might need professional help,
Yeah.
maybe a therapist, a counselor, or even a support group.
It's about recognizing that we don't have to go through this alone,
Right.
and that there are like resources and support systems out there to help us navigate those challenges. And I think it's also important to remember that sometimes these negative micro habits we're trying to break, they're actually connected to deeper beliefs that we have about ourselves.
Yes.
Beliefs that might be holding us back.
Absolutely. If you have a belief that you're not disciplined enough or that you're not worthy of success, those negative micro habits may be reinforcing those beliefs.
So it's like that saying, I'll believe it when I see it. But in this case, it's more like I'll see it when I believe it.
Exactly. So you have to examine those beliefs and really challenge them.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, is this belief actually serving me? What evidence do I have to support it? And then you have to start looking for evidence that contradicts those limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Focus on your past successes, no matter how small they seem,
Right.
and remind yourself of your strengths.
It's like, we're rewriting those internal narratives, replacing those negative self-talk tapes,
Yes.
with ones that empower us.
Absolutely.
And I think as we start to shift those beliefs, we create, space for those positive micro habits to like really take root.
And remember, changing those deep-seated beliefs, it takes time and effort.
Yeah.
Just be patient with yourself.
Yeah.
Celebrate those small wins. You're rewiring your brain, creating new neural pathways for success.
It's like we're literally sculpting our brains, shaping our destinies, one micro habit at a time. That's pretty powerful. But I also think it's important to like remember that our environment, it plays a huge role in shaping our habits.
Oh, it absolutely does. Our surroundings can either support or sabotage our efforts.
Yeah.
So if your goal is to eat healthier, but your pantry is full of junk food, you're setting yourself up for a battle.
It's like trying to run a marathon in flip-flops. You're just making it so much harder than it needs to be. So like how can we create an environment that actually supports those positive micro habits,
You can start by making those desired behaviors more convenient.
Okay.
So, for example, if your goal is to drink more water, keep a water bottle on your desk. If you want to read more, make sure you always have a book nearby.
Right.
And if you're trying to cut back on screen time, create those tech-free zones in your home.
So it's about making those positive choices like the easiest path.
Exactly. And it also applies to your social life.
Yeah.
Surrounding yourself with people who encourage you can make all the difference.
Right, our support system.
Yeah.
It's like building a cheer squad for our personal development.
Yes, and just like a cheer squad can motivate you, surrounding yourself with positive people can help you stay on track with your goals.
Okay, so we've covered so much today.
We have.
Exploring micro habits.
Yes.
Understanding their impact.
Yes.
And even talking about strategies
Absolutely.
for incorporating them into our lives.
And as we wrap up our deep dive into the power of these tiny actions, let's recap those 3 key takeaways to help you on your own habit-changing journey.
Okay, so to wrap up, what are like 3 key things our listeners should remember about micro habits?
First, awareness is so important.
Okay.
Really take some time, look at your daily routine, figure out what you do automatically. Those are your micro habits. Write them down, categorize them, and then you can see where you can make some changes.
All right, detective mode activated. What's number 2?
Second, you got to be patient. Just focus on 1 or 2 micro habits at a time. You don't need to change your whole life overnight. Start small.
Okay.
Build some momentum,
Yeah.
and celebrate the small wins.
Small steps, big impact. And number 3.
Remember, you don't have to do this alone. Talk to your friends, find a community or maybe a coach or a therapist, someone who can give you some guidance. We all need a little help sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of micro
It
habits. We
does.
we hope this has given you some new ideas
Right.
and maybe even inspired you to start, using micro habits in your own life.
Remember, even the smallest changes can make a big difference. It can lead to more success, happiness, you name it.
So go out there, make the most of those small moments and see how they can transform your life. Until next time, keep diving deep.